Stop fidgeting. So I'm Jean. I've always loved God. I've always loved kids. I've always loved music. But I would say, and I started working with preschool, teaching a preschool missions program in late 90s or early 90s probably. And I was doing fine, although I tried to have a varied program with the children. So sometimes we would color a coloring book page with crayons. And then for variety, we would color a coloring book page with markers. And I just didn't have a lot more tools beyond that to use. And I realized when my triplets came home with 6 pages each that I needed to be a little more diverse in my teaching. But my life, I think my life really changed. In the late 90s, I went to a conference, and it was called a Conference for Children's Pastors, but it was really for anybody who works with God, who works with kids in a God setting. So Sunday school, missions, choirs, preschools that are church-based settings. And I was at this conference with 2,000 people whose passion was teaching children about God. And there were so many creative people there. And I picked up some tips and tricks. And I had the privilege of going to this conference for a couple of years and had a row of binders. And I remember probably 10% of that. But over time with those conferences and over time working with children and getting little seminars and teaching things here, I'd like to think that in the last 30 years, I've learned a few tips and tricks about working with kids. So I'm not an expert. I don't even play one on TV. But I have a couple of ideas, and so if I can share some ideas that are going to make circle time better for you, or just teaching your kids more fun for you and more fun for your kids, then that's great. Because if you love what you do it better, and they get more out of it, and it's a win-win. So we're going to have circle time, so I need everybody to grab your cracker and stand up. And if you ate your cracker, you need to get another piece of food. Because our story today is about Joseph saving food so that when he was hungry later, he could feed the people of Egypt. So we're gonna go to circle time with our cracker. So when you follow me, we're going to save our food. You can sing, we're going to save our food. Won't you come along with me? We're going to save our food. Follow me. We're going to save our food. We're going to save our food. Won't you come along with me? We're going to save our food. We'll have a snack later. We'll have a snack later. Won't you come along with me? We'll have a snack later. We'll have it when we're hungry. We'll have it when we're hungry. Won't you come along with me? We'll have it when we're hungry. We're going to save our food. We're going to save our food. Won't you come along with me? We're going to save our food. Will you put your cracker here in the storehouse? We're going to save this. Because you had extra food left from when you had lots of food at dinner. We're going to save our food for when we're hungry later because you can have a snack, just like Joseph did. And we're going to learn about this in our Bible story today. Thank you so much for taking your snack and saving our food. Thank you so much. And just like Joseph had his people bring food, we've brought food into our circle time. So if you have a seat, we're going to learn about what Joseph did. So one of the things, and this will be a little bit of back and forth, I want to do a circle with you, but also take time to stop and think about what we're doing. So you can perhaps take the idea and then build on it for yourself. The song I did was a made-up song. I used to say there are only 5 songs, and they just have different words. So to prove my point, I'd like to know one of the songs that you remember from being a child. That was, I think, The Farmer in the Dell. The Farmer in the Dell. Farmer in the Dell, hi-ho the dairy, the farmer in the Dell. So that was my song. Who else knows a song from childhood that Jake remembers? Twinkle, little star. Twinkle, twinkle.
Row your boat.
Itsy bitsy spider.
There's a note page on your 3-page handout.
Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Farmer in the Dell.
And it doesn't have to be an English song. When my children were in preschool, they had a caregiver who worked on Wednesday evenings when mom was at whatever I was at and they weren't in anything. And the caregiver, actually she and her mother both worked together in childcare at the church we were attending. And they were both from Latin America. And so they taught my children Hispanic songs. Uno, dos, tres amigos, cuatro, cinco, seis amigos, siete, ocho, nueve amigos, 10 amigos son. So you have that song that you could do. What's another song?
Dripping the splash.
I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, sure. See, that's the left.
You said it doesn't have to be in English.
We're going to call it Rosario song? Maritza song. Celeste.
Oh, the Marisa.
She was calling it your name. Marisa song.
So you can use that. I couldn't use that because I don't know that song well, but you can use that. Celeste? Is that what you call it? I'm not sure I'm spelling Celeste right.
Yes, it is.
Okay, other songs. What's something else you know? What's a song you know?
Arroz con leche, rice with milk. Arroz con leche, me quiero casar con una señorita de Portugal.
Oh,
There you go.
Aquí.
One more.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That's a good one.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
That actually, one more. That also reminds me of happy. If you're happy and you know it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, happy, yeah.
This one I know. This one.
Loves me.
Oh, I love that.
Yep. So I love If You're Happy and You Know It because it has an infinite number of verses, limited only by the number of body parts you can imagine. So it's great when you need to have a waiting period in your classroom and you need to occupy the children, but you don't know for exactly how long. Because you can, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you don't participate, I'm going to get really wild. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head. You can pat your knees, stomp your feet, jump up and down, turn in circles, knock your elbows, pat your head, tug your ear, push your nose, walk your chin, rub your tummy, wiggle your hips. An infinite number of things you can do to occupy the kids. And that you can take that same creativity and apply it to any of these songs to make a word. So one example was from Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I did a lesson with Lionish, children two-ish, a year or two ago. We were talking about God's promise to Abraham, that I'll make your family as big as the stars in the sky and as many as the sands on the sea. And the song we talked about was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like God's promise in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Those stars, when we look at them, remind us of God's promise to Abraham, but they remind us of God's promise to us, too, that he'll make us his children if we believe in Jesus and trust him to be the boss of our life. So you can take these songs and you can make them into other words to go with your lesson. We had a lesson last week that they wanted you to do something to Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I didn't like the way the words fit. So I picked a different tune. But you can do that too. I mean, you can do, we did The Farmer in the Dell. There's also bingo. There was a girl, yeah. But you could, there was a man who had a son, and Joseph was his name of. Benjamin was his name of. Yes. He was the oldest one. He was the oldest one. He was the oldest one, and his name was Joseph. You might want to practice it once or twice at home before you try to do it with the children, but particularly with familiar tunes that they may have heard, or with easy tunes that they can pick up if you sing it 2 or 3 or 4 or 17 times, 6, a handful of times, they can start to pick it up. And particularly if it's a theme that you're going to have across 2 or 3 or 4 weeks about God keeping his promise. If you have that same song, it can really get into their heads and into their hearts. And my example with songs is, who knows Itsy Bitsy Spider? Do you remember who taught it to you? No. But somebody in your life, when you were a young child, loved you enough to sing that song to get into your heart and into your head. And you can remember it now. You might have a hard time getting it out of your head now that I've brought it up. But think about the power if you can do the same thing with God loves you. If you can get someone to have in their head, God loves you, God made you, God has a plan for you, how powerful that is to get into their subconscious. That they may not remember who you are or what you taught them, but if they remember there's this tune that when they hear B-I-N-G-O, they know God does love me so, God does love me so, God does love me so, and he will call me, he will be my father. If you can use those songs, it's a great way of bringing lessons into kids and helping them to repeat them and internalize them. Questions about using songs?
No, but I can give you an example that this week we did is, there anything God can't do? God can't do, God can't do. Is there anything God can't do? He can do anything. And the kids were like, anything. They were so excited about it. And Isaiah, I guess, broke out in song. Little 3-year-old Thea's son stood up in the restaurant and says, God can do anything. Like,
I love that.
So cute.
So, I mean, to get that in their heads and their hearts so that when they get into elementary school and the test is tough, or they get into middle school and that boy or that girl doesn't like them, or they get into high school and they don't get into the college of their hopes and dreams, to know that God loves them, that God has a plan for them, that God can do anything, God can take care of them, God keeps his promise. What an incredible foundation to give kids. So that's my spiel about songs. You saw that we did our circle time to sort of get the kids all together from having their whatever they were doing and bring them together. And being able to lead the kids with some sort of an activity or a song is one way to bring them together. You can also, the curriculum may talk about, you can have a sound or a symbol or a method that you always do. And if you flip the lights off and on, that's the sign to come to circle. If you have your clap, that's the sign to pay attention, or that's the sign to come to circle. There are some who are advocates of doing it the same way every time. I'm not nearly disciplined enough to do that. But there are different creative ways you can get besides, y'all come sit down. Everybody, you need to sit down. Hannah, sit on your bottom. Valerie, you need to come sit. Irene, you need to sit. Rosario, you need to come sit. Elaine, you need to come sit. Don't, go and get them, bring them in and get them involved in the circle. So you get to circle. We've talked about using your songs. One of the things that you can do to get kids to sort of focus is talk about something related to the lesson. Now, you have to keep in mind that a child typically has an attention span of about 1 minute per year. So a 2 or 3-year-old is going to be able to pay attention for about 2 or 3 minutes. So you need to make sure that you're not going on and on, but you're keeping it so that you're getting their attention pulled back in. So Brooke, what's your favorite food that you'd love to have more of?
Pizza.
Pizza. What about you? What's your favorite food that you'd love to have more of?
Salad.
Salad. What's your favorite food you'd like to have more of? Cookies. What's your favorite food you'd like to have more of?
Peppermint patties.
Ooh, peppermint patties, that's yummy. Well, we have a story today about a man named Joseph, and God helped him know that he needed to help people save food. They were going to be in a time when there was lots of food. Like tonight, we had lots of food. Who had plenty to eat? Did you enjoy your food tonight?
I did. It was delicious.
Did you enjoy your food tonight? Did you enjoy your food tonight? Wasn't it yummy? And don't you wish sometimes you could save it to have some more tomorrow because it was so good? Well, that's what our story's about. One of the things to keep in mind too is if I said, if I asked you a question, I said, what was the Pharaoh's dream? What do you think? What's the answer?
Silence.
So even if you're familiar with the story, how many of you know the story of Pharaoh's dream and Joseph interpreted the dream? Anybody familiar with that story? So even if you've heard the story, and even if you know the answer, or you think you know the answer, when I asked you, what was the dream about? You know that I probably think there's a right answer and a wrong answer. And you would not want to be wrong. So even though you know the answer, you may be really reluctant to say it because what if you're wrong? And children are just as afraid of being wrong as adults are. So instead of saying, what was Pharaoh's dream about? I can say, have any of you ever had a dream? What was in your dream? Irene, what was in your dream? Puppies. Yeah. That would have been a fun dream. Has anybody else ever had a dream?
You're my friend.
Of your friend. What was in your dream?
James.
James? That's a family member to have a dream. That's a great dream. Has anybody ever had a scary dream? A scary dream, we call those nightmares. They can be scary and you want someone to come take care of you. Anybody have a happy dream? Well, we have a story today about a dream. And by asking them what was in your dream, there may not be a right or wrong answer. Whatever they say is going to be right. So it's not as intimidating to answer. You know, what would you do? What do you think? That's never wrong. Whereas if I asked you to guess what I'm thinking, that's really hard. So we're going to talk about a dream today, and I have two examples. I have one from the curriculum and one from the book. Now, what I've found with the curriculum is the curriculum has in bold print, it has the very brief story, but the picture in the book is really not terribly engaging. The Bible that you all have in your classrooms to use has some great pictures, but I find that it's often like a 3-page story, or a 4-page story, or a 5-page story, or a 6-page story. And even if I read really fast, I'm never going to get this done in 2 to 3 minutes and keep their attention. So what I often will do, and you can adapt, but I will sometimes show them the picture and just talk about the story, or you can use a prop. And what you use for props can really vary. So in this story, we talk about, I think at this level, they don't talk about the butcher or the baker dream. They do. They talk about the bread and the grapes. For the very youngest children, if you're reading just the bold print in the curriculum, you're talking about just Pharaoh's dream. And so Pharaoh had a dream about corn and cows. So you use corn to make crackers, and you feed cucumbers to your cows. So when I talk about corn and cows, I've got some things that I can use to talk about the lesson. And you can use animals, you can use colors, you can even use puppets. And now you must absolutely have very sophisticated, professionally made puppets, like this one. And if you don't have any single socks at home, let me know. I have a gajillion single socks. I'd be happy to donate a sock to your children's ministry. I mean, it's even stapled. It's not even glued. But this could be Pharaoh. This could be Joseph, the wise man, or perhaps Pharaoh had long hair. This sock has been an angel. This sock has been Mary. Perhaps this sock is going to be Pharaoh tonight. So even something as simple as a puppet, and you can do sock puppets, you can do paper bag puppets, you can do paper plates where you have the Pharaoh face and you have the Joseph face. And you can hold those up to give your children something to look at, because you want to engage something more than just their ears. If you can have them march with you up to see Pharaoh, or some way of getting them involved in the story that'll help to keep their interest. So let's hear about Joseph. So we learned last week that we know, how did Joseph's brothers feel about him? What do you think? If you were Joseph's brother, how were you feeling about him? Did you like Joseph?
No.
And that was not a very well-worded question, because I was implying that there was an answer. Joseph's brothers did not like him, and they sold him. And the travelers who had Joseph took him far, far away. How far can you see? Can you see far, far away? Can you see far, far away? Show me how far you can look. Elaine, show me how far you can look. Show me how far you can look. Looking far away, so far away that his brothers couldn't see him anymore. And he went to work in a house, and he was the housekeeper. He was taking care of the things in the house, taking care of the family. And one day, the mother in the house, the lady in the house, told a lie. She said something about Joseph that wasn't true, and it got Joseph in trouble. Show me what your face would look like if you were in trouble. He was really scared. And you know what happened? He went to jail. They took him and they locked him up and they carried him away to jail. And he got to jail, and there were 2 other men in jail. That one night, those other men, while they were sleeping, they had a dream. And the one man went to Joseph and said, Joseph, tell me what my dream means. And Joseph told him what his dream meant. And then the other man said, well, Joseph, I had a dream. Tell me what my dream means. And Joseph told him what his dream means. Well, you know what? What Joseph said happened. Those men, what their dreams had been, and what Joseph told them came true. So a long time later, one of the dreams came true, and one of the men went to work back for Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was the king. And you sit like you have a crown on your head, like you're the king. That's what the king of Egypt was called. He was called a Pharaoh. And Joseph said, when you go work for the king, tell him that I told about your dreams. Help me get out of here. Well, they forgot. They went back to work for the Pharaoh, but they forgot. But 2 years later, while Pharaoh was sleeping, he had a dream. And he woke up and he thought, what do these dreams mean? And he asked, do you know what the dreams mean? And that wise man said no. And he said, do you know what the dreams mean? And that wise man said no. And he said, do you know what the dreams mean? And that person said, do you know what the dreams mean? No, Valerie doesn't know, Irene doesn't know, Karen doesn't know. Nobody knew what the dreams mean. And then the man who was in jail with Joseph said, oh, I remember. There's a man in jail who knows what dreams mean. You should ask him. So Pharaoh said, well, send me that man. And that man was Joseph. Well, you know, Joseph had been in jail, and it's kind of dirty, and it's kind of dusty. And he was going to go see the king, so he had to get cleaned up. So he fixed his hair. Can you fix your hair? Make your hair all nice to go see the king? And he had to wash. Can you wash? Maybe wash the dirt off your knees. And you just get your clothes all set up straight because you're going to go see the Pharaoh, you go see the king. He got all ready, and he went to see the king, and he said, King, how can I help you? Well, Pharaoh told Joseph the dream. And Joseph said, I don't know, but God knows. God knows everything, and God knows the answer to your dream. This is what God says is going to happen. There's going to be 7 years with lots of food, good harvest, and lots of wheat, and big fat cows. But after that are going to be 7 years when there's no grain and no cows, no grain and no cows. And so what you need to do, Pharaoh, is you need to save some of your grain and some of your cows when there's a lot. So when there isn't any, you have some food saved to feed your hungry people. Joseph said, find a man to collect this grain and store it in cities, put it in storehouses, and then there will be enough food for everyone to eat. And Pharaoh said, you know what? You're a very smart man. I want you to be in charge. And so Joseph became the keeper of the grain and the keeper of the cows, helping to save food when there was a lot. So when there was no food, people could have a snack. They could not be hungry. Joseph did his job well, and God was with him. God helped him to do a good job to save the food for the people when they were hungry later. If you were going to save food, what would you save? Money? If you were going to save food, what would you save?
Pie.
Pie? I would have saved pie. If you were going to save food, what would you save? Chocolate. Well, you know what? Let's say prayer, and we'll thank God for taking care of us and for helping Joseph. Will you all pray with me? Put your hands together and pray with me. Say, Dear God,
Dear God,
thank you for loving us. Thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for dreams. Thank you for knowing everything. Help us to listen to you and love you. Amen. Well, you know, I bet if you're hungry, we've stored some food up for you, that if you follow me, we can go to the storehouse and have snack. But I'm not going to make you get up out of your seats because you had too much dessert. So we're just going to sit here and pretend that we're going to snack.
Usually we have this whole group. We are between 8 to 11 years old, and
In the evening.
in the evening, yes.
Yes.
And when they come here, they don't like, exactly lessons,
Yes.
something like that. They are full energy. They
Yep.
would like something different.
Yep.
They like to play games.
Yep.
Do you have any suggestion? Because they would like to talk. They would
Yep.
like to move all the time.
So, my gift is more in the younger children than the older children. But I would say, with them, I would think about activities. I mean, maybe there's games like pass the cracker around behind your back, and don't let anybody know who it is, and then who can guess who's got the extra cracker, who's Joseph. Or if you're going to have them build a storehouse building, give them styrofoam cups or clay or something, or graham crackers and frosting, and have them build a gingerbread storehouse, or get them involved in building things, and not building things to make it look the way you think it ought to look. for children, particularly young ones, but even for children who are as old as 8, 9, 10, 11, the important thing is the process of thinking and creating, not the product. We made camels a month or two ago, where I had some just black and white outlines of camels, and we cut out 2 and then glued each one to the side of a paper towel tube or a toilet paper
I
tube.
think some of them even did it because I liked it so much.
And made camels. And I had the kids color the camels. Well, one of the camels was pink with turquoise socks. And, you know, it's fine. I had someone else who came in, another adult came in the room, and she had to find a brown crayon for her camel. And in my mind, most camels are brown, but there is no reason that a camel can't be pink with turquoise socks. That you don't have to color in the lines and connect the dots and do it just perfectly. It's more about expressing yourself and using color and seeing what you can create than is making the perfect thing. So you could have them, you know, find some materials and have them, you know, string and popsicle sticks, make a storehouse, make a building to keep your grain in. Or activities, I think, that would be story related. The other thing you can do is, I have done this particularly with, do the children speak English? Okay, so one of the other things you can do is, if you take the story, and it takes a little bit of prep time, but you take the story and you make, if you have 10 children or 12 children, make 10 or 12 copies, and then highlight a different line on different pages, and hand them each the page, and have them read the line that's highlighted on them. And they have to pay attention to what they're hearing so they know when it's time to say their line. And it can be, or if you have a smaller group, you can give, if you're telling the story of baby Jesus was born, you may give all the lines for one angel to one person and all the lines from Joseph to another person, or to two or three people that they share the Joseph lines. So get them involved in telling the story. You can also, if they think they know the story, ask them to tell it back to you. You get the
cutest part.
You get the first sentence, and then you get and you know, have them draw numbers, or you draw the stick and say, okay, what happens next? Okay, what happened next? Okay, what happened next? And maybe you tell them a short version of the story first and force them to sit through it, but then later you say, okay, we've heard the story. What happened? So, Brooke, what's the first thing that happened in the story? Valerie, what happened next? And see how and I think if you, the first time it may be an utter disaster, but I think if you do it from time to time, they'll start to get it, and they could actually have fun with it. And you may need to be prepared for Brooke to say, Joseph went out to a bar and got drunk. You know, well, that wasn't that may have happened, but that wasn't in the story we heard tonight. What else would have happened next? So you have to be a little bit flexible to figure out, you know, how to adapt and get the story back on track. But that might be another idea.
I think they do like to read in the circle, right?
Yes.
I hear they would.
This concludes my dissertation on circle time. I hope it was helpful. I hope we got a couple of ideas. And we also didn't even put jingle bells up there, so put jingle bells on your list of songs. Cows and grain, Joseph saved them all. And then I'd have to think for more than 2 seconds to come up with a rhyme for that.
I know.
Not for having practiced for 30 years, yeah. But I also love words. So you may want to think about it. And so last thing is, I often will read the lesson through a couple days beforehand, and it just kind of bubbles on the back burner, and I don't actually really plan until Saturday night. But I've had some time to let the thoughts kind of filter in and be able to pull some things out.
So I guess what I gathered, the most important thing is engagement.
Yes.
It's like making them want to be part of it.
Right. Think about when you go...
Regardless of what age.
Right. So think about when you go to training and someone reads to you the PowerPoint slides, and they read to you every word on every slide, and you sit there for 20 minutes while someone reads to you every word on every slide, that is probably the last thing in the world you want to do. And children are no different. They don't want to just be talked to. They want to have you ask them questions and get them moving and engaged. And it makes it more fun for you, too.
Thank you.
I just have a general question. When one child kind of drifts away from the circle and just doesn't want to enjoying? Do you just let it go?
It depends. You typically are going to have at least 2 people in the room. So you've got your circle leader trying to engage them, and maybe the other person goes over and tries to find out what's going on with Tommy, and just ask Tommy if he wants to come back to the circle time. Or maybe this person just wants to sit with Tommy while you're having the circle and make sure that Tommy's, paying attention and not cutting his socks up with scissors or something. So it's a little bit of a depends on the situation. I would try to make sure that they're re-engaged, that they're not off being distracting to the other children. If they don't want to sit with the group, it's probably okay as long as they're not creating a disruption. We can sit over here, but we need to be quiet so the other children can hear what's going on.
What about if it's like a kid that doesn't and it's just like
For children who aren't vocal yet, I think you want to make sure, particularly at the 18 months, you've got a minute and a half to keep their attention. So you may want to do just snippets of the story. Joseph had a dream, and God told him what the dream meant. Did you ever have a dream? Do you feel sleepy? We can take a nap, or you can just sit here in my lap. We'll look at some pictures while you rest. God told Joseph to save food when there was a lot, so he could feed people later when they were hungry. God takes care of us. God takes care of you, and He gives you food to eat because He loves you. Very, very short things. You can also either, if you know someone who knows sign language, or you pick up a book, you can use some symbols, or you can make up your own. Like I have found for young children who aren't really verbal yet, sometimes they can learn to say more, more please, and they can ask for more snack, for more water, but that they can do this a lot more easily than they can actually articulate it. Or you can tell them to sit down, okay, time to stand up, everybody. And I happen to know those words because I studied sign language for a while. But you don't have to use my signs. You can use your own signs. Everybody, we're going to sit down, sit down, sit down. And sometimes using signs will help children who are not verbal be able to communicate. They often are able to hear and understand more than they can articulate back to you. And again, telling the stories, like you said, simply for people who don't understand it, simple, short, but make sure you're also using words so they can start learning them.
this is on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we do those for the 2 months to 5 years old. So,
God bless you. It's hard. It's hard.
It's just like, usually we just, honestly, we let them just make sure they stay.
Yep.
Because,
2 workers? 3. For how many children?
Usually 8,
9
or 9.
So you may also find that you don't have to do everything at the same time. Particularly if you have 3 adults, you may have puzzle station and story station and something else going on that you can help kids move back and forth, and maybe you spend a minute or 2 telling the story, maybe even tell the story at snack time when you've got them sort of captured at the table. And then the rest of your time is spent doing other activities where you use your words while you're coloring, use your words while you're building with the bricks. You're building a storage barn for the food, and do it that way. Thank you for letting me have your food and share my ideas. I hope they're helpful.